Hey there and welcome back to another Miraculous Ladybug Season 4 video. And recently we saw the release of the remainder of the episode titles for the rest of Season 4. Now normally I don't really read into episode titles all that much, as I used to think that they didn't really offer that much info about what the episode's going to be about, or have any real relevance to talk about. Plus, in the past seasons, the episode titles were all released at once with a little synopsis, so there wasn't really much to say. But now I've kind of come to the opposite conclusion, that episode titles are really fun to speculate about, especially towards the tail end of the season. Even if most of my predictions end up being dodgy or don't have much real merit, the titles just give you that spark to think about potential storylines and plot points, which is a lot of fun. So with all that being said, I thought today I'd run through a bunch of the newly released titles and try to piece together some plot points based on those, along with the prior information we have about each different episode. So, obviously, some potential spoilers and a warning that this is going to be a bit of a tinfoil hat style theorizing video and shouldn't be taken too seriously. But with all that being said, let's jump into the discussion. So the first title's one that we actually already knew, Psychomedian. And my god, does this one reek of filler. I know they said that each episode's going to have a big crucial moment in it, but by this point I think we can all agree that whilst they've reduced filler quite a lot, it's still there. And this is premium vintage filler. Like seriously, it's about a comedian who gets turned into an evil clown. And just look at where it's placed. Episode 5. But no release date in sight, as well as being sandwiched between two little mini arcs. It obviously has no real relevance to the rest of the story. And I mean, it's quite clear that they've literally shit the bed when it comes to this episode. It's filler, and it's been delayed so much that nobody is going to care by the time it comes out. I mean, you could argue there might be a new hero introduced in this, but I highly doubt it, since in Mega Leech we essentially had all the relevant heroes up to that point selected. And that's later in the production order, so either a theoretical hero is introduced and they suck so much that Ladybug doesn't call on them for the mid-season team-up, or there's no new hero, no new development, and just complete, utter filler. I mean, this episode's already ascended to meme levels in the fandom at this point, and I'd be surprised if it actually ends up doing anything unique at all. It's just going to be very forgettable. Next up is another title we already knew, Gabriel Agreste, which is unique in that it's not named after an akumatized villain. And unlike Psychomedian, which seems to have nothing interesting to offer, we already know that Gabriel Agreste has a big plot point to deal with. Somebody finds out that Gabe is Shadow Moth. Now, I've talked about who the most likely candidate is in a previous video, so I'll just quickly say it's probably Lila. Surely. I mean, she hasn't really done anything of note this season, and so she's probably due for some development at least. Plus, since they've really done a better job of weaving plot points throughout the season through little mini arcs or connected episodes, this really sets up Lila for a bigger role going forward later in the season. I mean, if they don't give Lila anything for that first half of the season, it'll kind of be bad pacing and a real shock to me. Especially considering they set up that huge partnership in Season 3. As for anything else interesting happening, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually find out more about how Gabriel found out about the Miraculouses in the first place. And fingers crossed, there'll be a tease on Emily Agreste as well. She's shrouded in so much mystery, and this would be a great place to shed a little bit more light on her. I mean, theoretically, we could even see Felix at this point. A lot of people also want that definitive answer to the whole, is Adrian a sentimonster theory? And whilst I'm not sure that's going to be directly addressed just because it'd be such a shock and a massive plot point to put into episode 9, I do think we could get more information on the twin rings thing. When you think about it, there's just really so much that this episode could do. And it would be a real shame if they go with the textbook, heroes find out Shadow Moth's identity only to have their memories erased kind of thing. It would just be awful repetitive writing. Although in a sick sort of way, I think it would be really funny to see how disappointed everybody would be if the plot ended up going in that direction. I'm pretty sure Asterix's Twitter mentions would go insane, and he'd unleash another delicious rant. And I mean, those are always good for a laugh, so at least something positive would come out of it. But all that aside, I'm actually really hyped for this episode, and I think it's going to be really good. Next up, we have Glacier II, which involves the villain Glaciator believing that Cat Noir and Ladybug are in love. And of course, King Simp Cat Noir agrees with this, but once again finds himself rejected and needing to do some soul searching. Just like in the original. And of course, this leads Cat Noir to Marinette, who's trying to rehearse a speech to give to Adrian about how she feels. Now, whilst this premise sounds intriguing at first, it's going to be fluff. There's going to be no reveals about who likes whom, and Cat Noir is not going to find out Marinette likes him as Adrian. He just isn't. I mean, we see them interact in Simple Man, and there is no difference in the dynamic. You'd think it would be mentioned if he had some sort of clue about her feelings, but no. So, I hate to say it, but this seems like it will also be mostly filler. You just really can't have that many big moments in an episode like this. But that being said, it doesn't seem like it's going to be bad filler like Psychomedian looks like it's going to be. More likely, this is just going to build up character interactions and work towards shifting the dynamic a little bit. Hell, maybe it'll make Cat Noir less pushy. Maybe it'll make him see Marinette in a different light, just like she saw him in a different light in the original Glaciator. Who knows? Just don't get your hopes up for some big reveal is all I'm saying. But then on the other hand, it's been stated that this is one of the big episodes to watch out for. But I just can't see how, unless it's just another chapter in the decaying relationship between Cat Noir and Ladybug and their relationship just implodes. And even if it shows that Cat Noir develops an interest in Marinette, it hasn't really been followed up on that much so far, so it doesn't seem like it's that big. Oh well. We'll see. Next up, we come to the episode Killin', something like that, where Marinette's mother, Sabine, gets akumatized. And apart from the fact that the leaked screenshots show that her character design is awesome, we don't really know all that much about what's going to happen here. Other than fan service after Season 3's tease of Sabine getting akumatized briefly, it honestly just feels like this is going to be set up for Dearest's family. They needed the mum to have an akumatized form, and so she needed her own episode for that to happen, so the whole family can get in on it together in the next episode. Once again, it's still a little bit fillerish, and I doubt it really has that much overall plot relevance, but it's more about setting up the next episode after that, which will probably have a lot of big developments and story progression. And then this brings us to Dearest's family, and as we know from trailers and leaks, this episode revolves around Gabriel figuring out how to render the protection charms that Ladybug creates obsolete, using I guess some magic from the book or something like that, which allows him to akumatize Marinette's whole family and cause Tiki to go nuts. So really, on the surface, this seems like a pretty action-packed episode that's really setting the stage for the finale with old Gabe going all out to try and achieve his goals. And I'm guessing that this episode's going to link back to the episode Gabriel Agreste. And I'm thinking that in that episode, he's going to get himself akumatized and get his own little charm, unless he steals somebody else's, that's going to allow him to experiment on it to try and corrupt the charms and prevent their magic working. And then this in turn is going to allow him to go for broke and akumatize Marinette's whole family. And I mean, it's either that or he's just specifically targeting Marinette's family for fun. And honestly, I'm wondering how he doesn't get a little sus that he gets her entire family, but not her. So that actually might be a plot point that comes into it later in the season after this episode. Or maybe not, since she can't transform because Tiki goes nuts, so it throws him off the scent. And I mean, the possibility is actually there for her to get akumatized later in the episode as well, considering Tiki's gone haywire. And I feel like that would be a mega twist. I'm not completely sold on it, but it could happen. And of course, there's also the possibility that she tells her family her identity at the end of the episode. I mean, it's a little bit out there, but it could happen. Either way, this is probably going to be an important episode, and will probably be one of the bigger episodes of the season. And then this leads us to Ephemeral, which is the 100th episode, and supposedly one of the biggest episodes ever, whatever that means. And I guess something huge is going to happen here that's going to lead into the finale. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sort of identity reveal in this one that's ultimately wiped away and erased. I know it's cliche, but let me explain my thoughts a little. I mean, this is the episode with the leaked script pages, yeah? Where Adrian's all alone and can't join up with the other heroes? Well, over this season, Cat Noir has slowly but surely gotten less and less confident in both his friendship with Ladybug and his place in the team. Perhaps this episode can serve as kind of a culmination of this story thread, where after witnessing all the other heroes together, he kind of just gives up. And then you can bring Luca into the mix. I mean, he knows his identity, but maybe he needs Marinette's help to convince Adrian. So they reveal their identities and have a revealing discussion, and Cat Noir gets pumped up again. And then Luca reverses time so they forget, but now he knows just what to say to Adrian to get him hyped. Yeah, it's a bit tinfoily, and maybe it's overly complicated, but if they were gonna have Luca find out, they may as well use it. Especially when his power reverses time and lets people forget. I just think that this episode needs something big like that, so why not go for broke? And then this brings us to Kuroneko, Black Cat. And I mean, surely this one's just gonna be Felix based. Surely. It's like when Chloe would turn into Antibug or whatever she was called. It seems like this is going to be the kind of episode where Felix gets upset with the attention Cat Noir receives and gets akumatized based off that. And in canon, doesn't Adrian actually voice Cat Noir in the little animated movie? I mean, surely this would just be an easy tie into his insecurities with Adrian. And you could even throw in some more Agreste family drama / history while we're at it. Maybe we could learn a bit more about his mysterious mum and the twin rings thing again. And considering we seem to be coming up to Shadowmoth's grand finale, a bit more info on Emily wouldn't go astray. And you could fit it in here. And then this brings us to Penalteam. Is this a football special? All the heroes facing off with a team of akumatized villains? Seems weird, but I'll allow it. It kind of has the vibe of Max creates a fighting simulator episode. And honestly, the more I think about this, the more I want this to be the concept. It just seems so weird and out there that it actually would be fun to watch. And if you want to go real tinfoil hat basement dweller, you can actually make some connections and suggest that maybe this episode's going to have some significant development. I mean, a lot of episodes that have been pretty significant throughout the series have been set at the football stadium. Origins, Dark Hour where they nearly revealed their identities, Furious Fu with the Guardians. I don't know, it's honestly kind of a half-baked attempt at a connection, but you think with it being so late in the season, they wouldn't have a lame filler episode so close to the finale, right? Right? And then we finish off with the finale, Last Attack of Shadowmoth. Now obviously I'm not going to go too in depth here because I've covered my thoughts on this before, but I will address it slightly. First part's called Risk, and the second part, Strike Back. So it seems to me that Gabe's going to win in Risk and get the Miraculouses before the heroes strike back in part 2 and save the day. Anyway, those are all the titles for the remainder of the unreleased episodes of Season 4. And for the most part, I think those episodes are going to be good. But my god, you can just tell that some are premium filler, can't you? But with all that being said, those are just my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What do you think's going to happen in the remaining episodes? Make sure to leave a comment and let me know.